I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking through the project for those of you who are less familiar with Europeana Space as a project, so that you have a sense of the context for today's workshop. We are a best practice network, and we are now in our second year, and it's a 3-year project overall. And I'm sorry, the screen isn't terribly big, and the light on it means that you probably can't read it terribly well, and I'm sorry for that. I'm sure we can make the slides available if anybody wants to see them. And I should say at the end, of course, of my presentation, there will be the link to the website for the project, so any of this information is readily available on the website, so apologies for that. So the network, it's a very large network. You can see at the bottom, well, you can't really see, but you can almost see the geographical coverage of the project, which is pretty extensive across 13 countries across Europe, with 29 partners representing SMEs, cultural bodies, memory institutions, broadcasters, national cultural agencies, centres of excellence in multidisciplinary research, including universities. So we really do cover a very broad sweep of the creative and cultural industries across Europe. Our scope and overarching objectives of the project, as Tim mentioned, is to increase and enhance the use and reuse of digital cultural content by creative industries, with a special focus on the use of Europeana, Europeana being the very important digital portal to a wide and rich range of cultural artefacts and objects from numerous European contributors, and by delivering a range of resources and instruments to support their engagement. And importantly also to create new opportunities for employment and economic growth in the creative industries. Put simply, jobs, money, growth. So our strategic objectives within the project, first of all, to establish 3 spaces to support the engagement of creative industries with digital cultural heritage. Technical space, the content space, and the innovation space. And we'll be looking at that in detail today with our IPR focus. Central to the project, at the core of the project, are 6 examples of creative applications based on 6 pilots, as well as, very importantly, 4 demonstrators for educational purposes. Our objective is also to set up a very open network across the consortium, and, very importantly, to provide opportunities following a series of hackathon events for incubation, exploitation of outputs to be placed on the real market. So we're talking about this way in which we can enhance the growth of creative and cultural industries, thinking about how do we value the knowledge and the discoveries we find through the project, and how do we think about value. It is partly about money, but it's not only about money. So in other words, how can what we develop support creative industries thinking differently maybe about their business models, about how they start to reach new kinds of audiences that reflect back on working practices and so on. So our 3 spaces, as I mentioned, the technical space, which is primarily around the infrastructure and tools for content access, use and storage. The important one for today is the content space, so we're thinking about the rights management. How do we deal with these complex, challenging, but also enabling questions of IPR so that we can exploit digital cultural content? And also the innovation space for the valorization and exploitation within the creative industries. And it's very much about how those 3 spaces interlink. How do they connect together? How do they speak to each other, which is really important for us in the project. So our pilots cover 6 particular areas within the creative and cultural industries. Of course, we're not doing everything, but it's a pretty broad coverage. We're looking at Europeana TV, photography, dance, games, open and hybrid publishing, and museums. Each of these has its own particular focus, but there are also some interesting connections being established between these pilots as well. So there's some joint work going on. You can't possibly read this, and I'm so sorry, but broadly speaking, Europeana TV, the objective is to exploit the opportunities of reusing Europeana content in smart TV applications for creating new TV experiences. The pilot's focusing on 2 scenarios. in which video material is brought out of the archive and onto the viewer's screen. First of all, the broadcast scenario, which is developing an HBB TV hybrid broadcast broadband TV application based on the Berlin Wall. And the second one is a local community scenario focusing on applications for an immersive user experience in the living or classroom. Photography. The objective in photography pilot is to demonstrate a range of possibilities offered by apps, the Europeana API, and a multitude of tools developed by the open source community to come up with innovative models involving historical and present-day photography with monetizing potential and investment appeal. The pilot's going to develop 3 ideas: museum applications, storytelling web applications and apps, and augmented reality applications. In dance, we're working to create a general framework for working with dance content and the metadata accessible through Europeana and through the production of 2 innovative models of content reuse. First of all, dance spaces, primarily for leisure, teaching and learning, to share and explore dance content, and Dance Pro, focusing on professional and dance researchers as users for multimodal annotation of dance in real time. Games. The objective for games is to examine how the highly engaging principles of gaming can be applied to digital archives and their content in order to create new prototypes for future games applications. 3 demonstrators are created: a game building tool, a video mashup game that deploys archive materials in new and unexpected ways, and an educational game designed for art teachers and their students. Open and hybrid publishing. Its objective is to develop a creative multi-platform resource, an open book, about the dynamic relationship between photography and other media that reuses open content drawn from Europeana and other online repositories and runs on open software. Titled Photomediation, an open book, it aims to both popularize the availability of online image-based resources with CC BY license or similar, and to devise an alternative business model for using open and hybrid publishing for digital image-based heritage, sharing it with educators, students, publishers, museums, galleries. Museums, the objective is to create ready-to-use solutions for content and exhibition curators, but also for end users, leveraging on the multimedia contents available in Europeana combined with web-based and mobile solutions. 2 distinct products are the result: a toolbox, a web-based application dedicated to museum curators for the design of brand new educational videos and promotional worksheets, and the Blinkster mobile app, able to enrich the exhibitions with Europeana contents for visitors' education and entertainment experiences. So you can see within the pilots there's a lot of work to be done. We're already well into our work and developing these applications. And alongside and working very importantly with us are the demonstrators, the work on the demonstrators, which are dedicated to showing best practice for educational purposes. We have the Caffafi Literature Library. We have the Irish Poetry and Folk Tales. We have the photographic investigation of works of art and the archaeological built and 3D heritage demonstrators. And again, all underway. So our impact and our beneficiaries. So we're hoping to have impact in a wide range of creative industries, across the creative SMEs, the larger players within the creative industries, individual and independent creators and artists, the education sector, cultural institutions, and other social and economic activities. So ambitious. So our project events, as I said, we're into year 2, and this is our timetable as it currently stands. We had our first major conference in the autumn in Venice. Some of you were with us. Of course, the partners are with us. Today, the second on the list, here today, our IPR workshop here in Coventry. Later in the month, we have our technical workshop, and there's information about that if anybody wants to join us for that in Brussels. The other events are yet to be finalised in terms of specific dates, but we're looking towards the end of the year, in December probably, for our midterm conference, which may well be in Tallinn in Estonia. And then our pilot demonstrators and hackathons are moving forward. Our first one is in May in Amsterdam, the TV hackathon. And then we move forward into all the other hackathons or hackathon type events. They all have their own particular kind of focus and direction. And the important thing with the hackathons is they're situated within a particular city in a particular country in order to draw in the experts, the creative experts in that community that sits around that activity, so that we can start to reach, the project can reach much further across Europe. And then by September 2016, we will have selected our winners from the hackathons who will be given the opportunity to join us for a series of monetising workshops here in London, which will help them think about moving their initial ideas through into business modelling, which will take them further into incubation and support from there on. And then we will have a best practice for education workshop, concluding by the end of 2016, our final conference in Berlin. So there are many more opportunities for those of you who are joining us today to take part in our future events. So in summary, Europeana Space, we're creating an open environment for the development of a rich set of user-validated applications and services based on digital cultural content, a critical mass of digital objects. A new large digital cultural heritage community with special focus on creativity and, most importantly, the reuse of digital cultural content. And an innovative network of allied partners who share the same big mission of unlocking the potential of digital cultural heritage across Europe. And just to finish, here is our website, our blog. So do follow us. And there you will find out much more about the project, our activities, our events, and the information that you can't read today on the slides, you'll be able to find there as well. And there we have it. Thank you very, very much.